Good evening, guys. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Geordie, and welcome back to F1 23 My Team Career Mode for the Singapore Grand Prix. And if you missed out on last episode, the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, we secured a third victory in a row this season. So we're starting to run away with the championship at this point. We are so far ahead of the next best car in Max Verstappen. Of course, Verstappen is really losing confidence in that RB20. Not only have we won the last 3 Grand Prix, we've also set the fastest lap in each and every one of them. So it's been complete domination on paper anyway. Of course, the British Grand Prix was a big last to first sort of victory. Canada, of course, we were very close to losing it to Carlos Sainz. And of course, if you watched the end of last episode, you will know that we upped the difficulty from the 85 that we've had throughout this career mode so far. That has served us right. But I've obviously played enough of the game at this point, to the point that it's definitely ready for us to, you know, up the difficulty. And, yeah, 90, we're going for it. I've recorded 2 episodes with 90 difficulty now, and I'm quite confident that we're at the difficulty that we really should be at. As of right now. And of course, eventually, since this is only season 2 and I plan to do at least 5 seasons of this career mode, eventually we're definitely going to up the difficulty once more. But we actually have no R&D in progress as of right now. Basically all our parts, our new parts, came in at the end of last episode. So yeah, we do have some new parts going into the Singapore Grand Prix, but of course other teams like Williams have had ultimate upgrades. I swear they've had ultimate upgrades. We, of course, I don't think we're able to do ultimate upgrades yet. We need to get Spec 3 on a lot of our facilities, which we are unable to do as of right now. So because that requires a lot of money, and we need to finish high up in the championship. And with you know, us being champions elect, like, we're so far ahead of the championship at this point. I doubt we're going to drop the ball, even if, you know, we finish outside the top 5. As long as we're still scoring points, I think we can still keep hold of the championship quite comfortably. I hope so, anyway. Who knows? Verstappen's not doing so well. Sainz isn't doing the greatest. Leclerc is a little bit of a dark horse, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. But yeah, pretty much that's our objective. Of course, the Constructors' Championship, I'm not really talking about it too much because obviously our teammate still isn't up to par just yet, because the car itself isn't up to par. We're really outperforming it right now, but it is getting closer and closer. Of course, Lance Stroll is now consistently getting into Q2, which is absolutely great for us. And in the recently, of course, he's actually managed to get into upper Q2, which is great for us because that means there's progress, that he's getting closer and closer towards the points. Our car might be worse than the Williams and the Haas, but Stroll is consistently finishing ahead of the Williams and the Haas, and starting to challenge Théo Pourchaire in that Aston Martin. So yeah, things are looking up for that second seat at Sly Team Racing. Lance Stroll is doing very well, and I'm hoping this will lead into a Season 3 Constructors' Championship Challenge. Because once we've won the Drivers' Championship once, that's that achievement done for me. I'm kind of like Max Verstappen in that regard. Like, I'll just win it once, and then, you know, the rest is sort of like elementary. You know, it's not as important as that first one, you know, because you've already been there, done that. So we're going to win the Drivers' Championship, and then I think what we're going to do, like, we're still going to go after the Drivers' Championship, don't get me wrong, but I think we're going to make the Constructors a priority from Season 3 onwards, at least until we win that Constructors' Championship for the first time, because that, again, is the aim of My Team Career Mode, is to win the team Constructors' Championship. You know, if it was all about the Drivers' Championship, we wouldn't really need to start our own team. We could just start at whatever team we wanted. Which, there is a future for that. I definitely want to do a driver career mode at some point. I'm probably going to do that for F1 24. But that's way off in the future just yet. We still got half a year to go. Or over half a year to go until that game comes out. But here you go. we have got a wet qualifying. So I'm quite relieved that we've got a dry race for Singapore. Of course, wet Singapore last season, on the old layout, mind you, was very tricky, but there's really not that much of a difference. Yes, there's an extra straight, so I guess it's been made a little bit easier, but the corners that troubled me the most at Singapore are still there. So, you know, I'm not taking much solace from the fact that the layout is different, but at least the track is dry. Qualifying, though, isn't looking good. It looks like there's going to be a lot of rain, and towards the end of qualifying is actually looking to be monsoon weather, which we haven't had since, I think it was Singapore last season. So, yeah, definitely a little bit worrisome, but yeah. We've got 3 sessions of qualifying. I have no idea when that rain is going to be triggered. So we'll just have to see what happens. Maybe not only we, but also Lance could benefit from it. We'll have to see. But yeah, things are looking good for the team. But I think we're pretty much hitting our ceiling for this season. We need more money. We need the prize money that comes with whatever we're achieving in the championship. And of course, I was speaking on the constructors earlier. The other teams outside of Ferrari and Red Bull aren't doing so hot. Yeah, Aston Martin, of course, the 3rd best car on the grid, only has one of their drivers consistently in the points, and that's George Russell. Théo Pourchaire is consistently out of the points. Haas, they started off as the 4th best team on the grid. They have not scored any points this season, and their car has now fallen to where it really belongs, to be quite honest, or at least where the team belongs, that is. Red Bull are now starting to slip up, of course. Perez is still being pretty consistent, but he's never really placed that high anyway, other than the odd really high finish and the win at Jeddah, of course. Verstappen has had a complete loss of confidence since that DNF in Canada. A 9th place finish in Britain, an 8th place finish at Spa, so he is still scoring points, but you know, it's a far cry from the very dominant Verstappen that we got earlier on this season. After that first DNF that he had in China, he started dominating. I think it was 4 race wins in a row, something like that. It was crazy, and now it looks like we are that dominant force now, but the difference between us and Verstappen was that Verstappen was shooting off into the distance, obviously down to having a lot more fresher engine parts, down to that DNF in China. So he managed to really gain all those points back in the next few races, but we never really had that advantage. We have never really shot off into the distance unless you count Monaco, and I suppose you could count Spa as well, to be fair. But at least most of those races were competitive, you know. Well, Spa was anyway, and Britain definitely was. We would have lost that race if we hadn't done that really risky strategy. But yeah, with the exception of Monaco, the championship fight has been close-ish, at least in terms of how it's felt in the races. But Carlos Sainz, of course, he's had a few pointless finishes. He keeps running into us, that's what's happening, and we're really pushing him back. So... yeah, hopefully in this race he doesn't have to deal with us once again, at least hopefully for him anyway. But there we go, there is our second lap, sorry, of Q3 on this new Singapore layout, and we've got P1, and yeah, P2, I think it probably was, what the hell just happened there? Oh my god, and I think, yeah, that must have been what happened. I think everybody was in some sort of DRS train. Everybody between me and Sainz must have been in some DRS train, because those not DRS train, but like a slipstream train, because those times are insane. We just fell from P2 to P11 in the blink of an eye, and it must be a slipstream train, because even Albon's got a better time than us. He finishes P10 in the Williams for Q1, and good news for us, of course, Lance Stroll has made it into qualifying, but even the Haas cars must have been in that slipstream as well, because even they are better. So yeah, really happy that Lance has got into Q2. Very lucky though, so he must not have been in that slipstream train, but I really hope that doesn't happen again. But here we go. Going into our first lap of Q2. We're on fresh softs because I really don't feel safe not doing that, especially after what happened in Q1 there. And we are going to set our first time of a 1:30.1. It's good enough for P3. So the Alpine and the McLaren are quicker than us. We are quicker than Sainz, so maybe it might be down to engine wear. Of course, our ICE is starting to wear down a little bit now, but yeah, this is it. And going into this lap, something very peculiar started happening. Now, you might not see it on the screen, and I think this might be an issue of the last generation of F1 games, because I'm on the PS4, but usually how you can tell it's starting to rain is you actually see some raindrops land on the halo, like towards the middle. That's not the lights of Singapore. Some of it is a little bit of a reflection, but there's definitely some raindrops happening. Surely there is, because we're now, like, we're losing quite a lot of time here. We're losing a lot of grip. I'm not on a scrub set of tires. We actually end up losing almost 2 seconds, as yes, there it is, the rain has definitely started to fall down. I eventually gave up on my lap to give Lance a little bit of a slipstream, so hopefully that makes his time good enough. But yeah, hopefully his first time was good enough. But there you go, our lap was good enough for P7. A pretty good intuition from me in commentary anyway, because at first I was very confused. Even watching it afterwards I was very confused, but yeah, if you pay really good attention you can tell that it is actually starting to rain, even though you can't physically see it properly just yet, other than that part of the halo. That's how I usually am able to tell that it is starting to rain. But Lance Stroll, P11, Verstappen has had a howler. I think he might have left his lap too late and he finishes really low down, but Stroll, a career high position for the second seat of Sly Team Racing. That is absolutely wonderful. Stroll P11, a good shot at points maybe. We'll have to see how his strategy goes down, but going into Q3 we have an Inters lap, and since the forecast was you know, monsoon rain, it's only going to get worse from here, so we've really got to make this lap count. This could actually be our one and only lap here in Q3. And I think I might have left it a bit late. I think a lot of the drivers are already out. They've gotten out as quick as possible to kind of beat this rain, because this is the only time that Inters are even going to mean anything. It's raining quite a lot, so it's only going to get worse. But here we go. Now this is where I'm afraid. Of course, wet Singapore is very, very difficult. For me, it's even more difficult than Monaco, because I just cannot seem to get a good flow around wet Singapore. Now that's maybe because I've only ever tried it in the career mode and I've never made a exclusively wet Singapore setup, and I've always had to still run a driest setup, and definitely for this one, I mean, to make sure we get through this qualifying, I've definitely compromised the rear wing a little bit, but not that much, you know. I've not prioritized qualifying here. I've prioritized the race and compromised a little bit for qualifying. Of course, I put more downforce on the front wing, which we will take less of, you know, in the race, of course, because you can still change that in in Parc Ferme. But yeah, as you can tell, we're going very deep around some of these corners, so this might not be a good time, but it's also because the rain is getting worse, of course. It is absolutely pissing it down. And look at that. That's the corner that caught me out in Season 1, and it almost caught us out here, and it probably, I guess that still counts as catching us out, because we went really deep into that. We had to brake really hard and turn full lock just to escape the wall there. And yeah, I don't feel like this is a good lap at all, as we now go into the final corner. Carlos Sainz hasn't had a good lap neither, and the track is just so wet, and that really just came down to whoever got out of the pits the earliest and managed to do a lap around the track when the track was driest, because yeah, it only got wetter as we progressed through that lap, and now it's putting us on the wet tyres. I've still gone out there just in case, you know, it's still worth going for a lap around, like maybe maybe we might go quicker than the Inters, but I realised very quickly that that was not going to be the case at all. And yeah, I mean, look at that absolute monsoon rain around Singapore here, and I'm just gonna pit. I'm literally, there's no point going for a lap. We've set the best one we could have done, and yeah, that's all we could have done, unfortunately. So yeah, a P9, a season worst position for us in quali for season 2. So yeah, definitely got to rethink a strategy. Not sure what we're going to do for the race, but yeah, definitely wet quali caught us off guard. And yeah, it caught Sainz off guard as well. I think it caught Perez off guard. Yes, it did, because everybody above Perez was like 5/10 quicker. So yeah, Charles Leclerc must have been the first out. George Russell in the Aston Martin gets P2. He's flying high. He has done absolutely amazing for the Aston Martin team. But now let's go to the grid.
The spectacular backdrop of the Singapore skyline, something of an endurance race ahead with the notorious sauna-like temperatures for the drivers. It makes it a very physical contest out there. Welcome back to Marina Bay for the Singapore Grand Prix. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And starting next to them is George Russell. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Gasly, Norris, Bottas, Oscar Piastri, Perez, the owner driver, Sainz, Stroll, Albon, Teo Porcher, Magnussen, Verstappen, Liam Lawson, Joe, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Tsunoda, and Nick de Vries. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today.
Well, here we are on the grid for the Singapore Grand Prix, and I've had quite a little bit of a think about what our strategy is going to be. And, you know, you might be able to tell, you might have already guessed already, well, not guessed, but you might have already observed that Lance Stroll is actually right behind us on this grid. And so I see a nice, lovely opportunity to go for some Sly Team Racing double points. If we can cover off everybody around us, particularly to the left of us, and move out of the way for Lance to get a really good, a lot of space around the outside, we could actually get Lance into the points and then defend the entire race, just to build a big gap, for Lance to build a big gap as we hold up the other half of the grid. I feel like we could do that. We're not going to use the softs. I know, you know, it might be ideal just to, you know, try and push our positions forward, but during the practice sessions, I did not feel good on the softs at all. I tried to go long on the softs just to really test them out, and yeah, they're useless now for us in Season 2, so there was absolutely no way I was starting on the softs. I'm actually going to start on the hards here, because I know a lot of people might start on the mediums, so I'm thinking we defend as hard as possible on the hards, and then yeah, we move on to the mediums to try and stay ahead of everybody else, as they will be, you know, on harder compounds and therefore slower.
The formation lap gets underway, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. As all the cars reform the grid, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring their planned strategies are all in place.
Well, definitely a bit of a spanner in the works there. I guess it might come down to our driving style, because everybody behind us, including Lance, is starting on the softs, which I think is a horrible strategy. Sainz is a smart one. He's going on to the mediums. But Lance, unfortunately, is on the softs. So, yeah, if we want him to get points, we have to defend. 100%. There's no way we can rely on Lance's pure pace, because he is going to fall down the order so quickly if we don't do anything about it. But here we go. Up to 5. Red lights. Sainz is to the left of us, and we are going to immediately try to cut him off here. As we now look and see if we can... We almost got in the way of Lance there, and I managed to swerve the car out of the way. Sainz actually has to cut the corner there. So definitely a little bit clumsy from us. That would have been disastrous. But there it is. The objective that we wanted to do has... well, the hardest part of that objective, for me anyway, was getting Lance in front of us cleanly. And we did obviously have to rely on Lance having a good start, and he did. He had a great start. So there he is, and he's hopefully going to get into that DRS train. I think he'll definitely fall out of it due to being on the softs, of course. So yeah, it's definitely integral that we help him build a gap here. But we are now on for Slide Team Racing's first ever double points. This is a monumental occasion, and it's all down to us. It's also down to Lance not to bin the car, obviously, which I don't fully trust him not to. He has a habit in real life of doing that. But, yeah, all he's got to do is drive. All he's got to do is drive. Pretty balanced. He's not really going to have to defend against anybody, in my opinion. So, yeah, here we go. And, of course, Sainz. Oh, he's going to be so angry at us at this point. We just keep getting in his way. Like, this man's luck this season when it comes to going against us is just, like, non-existent. Man's got no luck at all, and it's a shame, because Sainz would have been on for a championship win, I'm pretty sure. Like, he was on for a win in the Drivers' Championship if it wasn't for us. And, of course, Max Verstappen, but, yeah, Sainz has tried to be consistent. He's just kept running into us, so... yeah, definitely not good for him, but Alexander Albon's there as well, so maybe if we defend Sainz enough, maybe Albon will get out in front. But we're on lap 2 now. Stroll is already 3 seconds ahead, so you can tell how much I'm really braking into these corners, really parking the car into the apexes just to stop stop Sainz from having any sort of pace. Like, stop this train that we're leading from having any sort of pace. Of course, we might be in a bit of trouble when DRS comes into play, of course, but I'm confident that, you know, we'll be able to buy Lance enough time to secure his first points in the Slide Team Racing car. And Sainz is definitely getting a bit frustrated. He actually hits us there. And we're going to use ERS to get right back in front of him, to keep him behind, and, yeah, beat him to the apex once more. So... yeah, corners like that, you can tell I'm definitely braking really hard and parking the car as much as possible and then speeding off. Kind of like how Lewis Hamilton kept Nico Rosberg behind him in 2016. Except the guy that we're keeping behind is not going to win the championship. So, yeah, Rosberg won the championship in 2016, but Carlos Sainz is not winning the championship and he's not beating us here. Or maybe he might. Oh! And that was a great move right there. Carlos Sainz did get right in front of us, but we managed to basically switchback dive bomb into turn 1 of Singapore there. Very close. I bet we were lucky not to crash there. But there you go. And because of our hard defending after that, like, I wanted to make sure that we'd got the move done on Sainz. Albon's overtook him, and now we skip ahead 3 laps. To lap 6, and now Alexander Albon is now going to be challenging us. He's getting quite the slipstream, and of course that Mercedes engine is pretty good. So we're going to worry a little bit. We've gone over the curb, very lucky not to get floor damage. We're trying to give Albon as much space as possible, and yeah, Sainz is right behind us as well. Albon and Sainz now side by side, and I'm just going to try and block them both off, try and get them to fight with each other, because then obviously that buys us even more time. you know, to stay ahead. But Albon says no to that, and he actually does get in front of us, and he defends it really well. He actually gives us a taste of our own medicine, parks the car twice. We actually hit him a bit there. Luckily we didn't take any damage there, but there's a bit of karma there. But I suppose it doesn't really matter, as we're now on lap 7. Stroll is 14 seconds ahead. So yeah, job done pretty much. I'm going to keep doing it anyway, but yeah, it's pretty much job done. So now my objective is to kind of focus on my own race. I still want to score points. Obviously I need to if we want to get the team's first ever double points. I'll be happy with a Lance Stroll solo points finish, but yeah, it just feels a lot better, and a lot better for the title if we get double points. So here we go, we're using overtake. Our engineer is willing us forward to try and catch up to Albon. Of course that Williams, like, it's very fast in a straight line, so we've really got to focus on the corners really, and we do have a big advantage over Albon in terms of grip now. Those softs, they've got to be falling off a cliff, and yeah, showing Albon the dummy there and going around the outside. He's still going to fight us a little bit of a collision is made, but otherwise it's fair racing from us right there. And now we skip ahead to lap 10. Pierre Gasly has fallen. I think he's had a little bit of an engine failure. Yes, he has. So things have gone from good to even better for our team here. And I was a bit distracted there. We might have lost the race ourselves. We might have exited out the race ourselves there. I had a lapse in concentration. But yeah, looks like this is going to be an even bigger points finish for me and Lance. Of course, one of the cars in front has pitted, so they're going for an undercut, whoever that was. But yeah, Stroll 11 points ahead, and look how far ahead Norris is compared to Stroll. That's what I was talking about. The soft tyres have completely fallen off a cliff. They are not good enough for Singapore this season for us. So that's why I didn't go on the softs, and that's why Stroll couldn't have. I'm 90% sure he could have stayed in the DRS train a lot longer had he gone on to the mediums like he really should have. But his second stint will be pretty quick, because he'll be going on to the mediums, and now he's going into the pits, and now I've got a decision to make, because I don't know when I'm going to pit, and I'm very indecisive. I want to come into the pits. The pit crew, the engineer's telling me no, but I am demanding, I'm ordering it. As the team leader, I am ordering that we go in for this pit stop. So it could be a double stack situation, as Stroll has only just finished his pit stop, so this is going to go right down to the wire. There's a little bit of a hesitation, but there it is. We have come in clutch, and of course the pit crew, got to give them a bit of credit. Yes, Albon is overtaking us, but only just. It's really not going to matter that much. That was a genius move from us. Yes, it was a double stack, but you'd hardly be able to tell, because that's how far in front Lance was. So we were able to pit on the same lap. So that was incredible, and now we look to chase after Alexander Albon. We want to keep that P10. Lance Stroll, of course, is in P9. There'll be a few cars, you know, still ahead, give or take. So I think it might be a virtual P8 and 9 for us, as we now look to challenge Alex Albon around the outside. There's a bit of contact made, and there was definitely contact made as he really slowed down, so I'm going to let him back through and fight him into the next corner. And we're going to try and stay ahead here. We're side by side with the Williams here. Go around the outside. This is really good racing between us two, and we managed to come out on top. Théo Pourchaire isn't too far behind us neither in the Aston Martin. Of course, Aston Martin going to be very disappointed in this season, of course, since they've developed a really good car. Oh, maybe they might not be disappointed, because George Russell is placing really high, but they'll definitely be disappointed in that second driver. So I'm quite curious to see what they do with Théo, to be quite honest. He's not a bad driver, even though he did have a bad stint in his career for us. And he has scored points in that Aston Martin, don't get me wrong, but he's not consistent enough. He's not getting into the top 10 enough, and that car deserves better. But yeah, basically all this race was us defending against Albon and kind of trying to maintain this gap that we do have. Of course, Stroll, that's how bad the soft tyres were. He fell back from Norris so fast. And then, of course, that top 7 had a DRS train, I'm pretty sure, as well. So, yeah, Stroll's had a very lonely race. But good for him, honestly, and good for us. Double points as we now go into our final lap, even if Albon does overtake us, you know. But I want to get as much points as possible. There are 6 points up for grabs here, as Stroll has now bagged 4 points, unless he bins it on this last lap. We, of course, are sitting on 2 points, as we now look to defend against Albon, who is managing to keep up very consistently. He's managed to keep up with us this whole time for these previous 10 laps. So, yeah, I've had to stay on my game here. But it's all looking really good, and we could have binned it. We could have lost it all right there, very close to the wall, as Charles Leclerc takes the victory for Ferrari. Good for him, honestly. He's going to get back into the title race. I did say earlier on in this episode he might be a dark horse, but yeah. Charles Leclerc takes the victory for Ferrari. That is going to be hugely important for them, as they're the better team. They've looked the better team this season, other than the giant mishap at Imola, and they are going to extend their lead in front of Red Bull in the Constructors. But the story that we will be talking about is the very first double points for Sly Team Racing. Come on!
Take care of the car on the way in.
There we go. Lance Stroll P8, Jordi Charisma P9. Wow, we worked hard for that one. We worked very hard for that one. Best teammate ever. That's us.
That's a fantastic performance from Ferrari. It hardly looked in doubt. Natalie, fill us in. What was it that helped the team achieve their success today?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
Here come our winners now. A thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again.
A very colourful podium here. Charles Leclerc P1, George Russell P2, Lewis Hamilton P3 in the Mercedes. So Mercedes starting to come back a bit. That might be down to engine wear though. I'm not sure how Perez is doing, and of course, you know, Sainz isn't doing very well neither, getting held up by us. But yeah, very impressive for George Russell. Another podium for him and Aston Martin. Him moving away from Mercedes and not being stuck with Lewis Hamilton anymore. That broken promise that Mercedes gave him. It's been the best career choice of his career, I think. Him moving to Aston Martin, because now he's the lead driver. That car is consistently improving, and yeah, Russell has had a pretty good season. Yes, he's P8 in the standings, and that's because it's been a bit shaky, of course. In my opinion, he should be ahead of the McLarens, but yeah, Piastri's done really well. But yeah, honestly, it is a lot closer than it really does seem like at first glance. So it's been a good season for him, and it's only going to get better in future seasons. But yeah, we are P3 in the standings. McLaren are slowly catching up. We're still P1 in the standings, but the story today is that Lance Stroll has his first points in the team. Our second driver for the first time ever has points for Sly Team Racing. 4 points for Stroll, 2 points for us, which is a season low, but I still feel amazing about this race because of those double points. So I'm not going to be too fussed about it, and we can always make it up in the next race, which will be Qatar, which I'm not sure how that's going to go. We definitely have to make a few changes to the setup compared to last year, because we lost a lot of speed on the straights, and even if we do, the Renault powered engine isn't that good on the straights compared to the other teams. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode of F1 23 My Team Career Mode. If you guys liked it, be sure to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can, comment, share and subscribe, and I shall see you all in the next video. Until next time, peace.